All right, fellas, it's time to do a deep dive into this Colts defensive end room. It's a very boom or bust type of a room. It's going to be very mediocre, it's going to be good, or it's going to be dominant. Like, it's kind of just like boom or bust. I know I threw good in there, but it is really an interesting room. It's a hard room to get a grasp of. You have no clue how this room is going to be this year. You could probably expect 6+, 7+ sacks out of Kwity Paye. Other than that, you really don't know what you're getting. And Kwity Paye, we'll talk about him in a moment because I want to talk about a couple of other things before we get into each and every one of these guys. But Kwity Paye, he's been the guy on the team the longest that has the highest expectations, if you know what I'm trying to get, in terms of edge rushers. We were into the interior defensive line with Buckner and Stewart, but Kwity Paye has been, even though he gets 6, 7, last 2 years he's had 8+ sacks, so that's some consistency in itself. But this edge room as a whole, and we'll talk about Kwity a little more, but this edge room as a whole should be finding ways to win more than they have been. We did lose a couple guys throughout the year. We did bring a couple of guys in here and there. But the issue has been, where's the consistency? We see all the flashes. We see the good moments, but when are they going to become consistent? When are they going to start doing it almost every game, not just 1, 2, 3, 4 games a season, and then the rest are just nothing going on? There will be a couple games throughout the season where this edge room is just dominant, insane. But then the other 75% of the season, they're just, where are they at? They're so inconsistent, and that's kind of the issue. But there are a couple of new factors. Well, there is a new factor this year that I do want to talk about that I think is going to help Kwity Paye bring his game to the next level. And I think Latu, it may help bring him to the next level. And Samson Ebukam, if he could return to 70% of his 2023 year, this will be a good rotational room. Not only will you have two good starters, you'll have a good rotational piece. We'll see JT Tuimoloau, how he's going to turn out, but there's a lot of depth. And there's a couple ways you could look at it. You could look at it in a way where you could have one guy break out and be really dominant, and then the other guys will be okay, or you'll have possibly four really good, not really good, but like decent edge rushers in terms of passing. And, in general, but Kwity Paye, great versus the run. Passing-wise, a little different. But if you get 4 decent guys that could wear down an offensive line throughout the game, everyone stays fresh all game long, all season long, that can also have like a similar effect. More so towards the end of the game. At the beginning of the game, it might be a little lackluster, but towards the end of the game, it might show out and might win us a couple games. But a couple of other factors I do want to talk about, which I'm trying to bring up. I'm just getting off topic. I keep thinking of other things to bring up that are important. But Lou Anarumo, he is going to make use of these guys like Gus Bradley never was able to or never, adapted to. Gus Bradley just had four guys, on the defensive line, just having 4 guys rush. That's it. No stunts, no creativity. Lou Anarumo is going to bring the opposite energy. He's going to have stunts. He's going to have a lot of creativity. And I think when you have this much athleticism between Kwity Paye, Latu, JT Tuimoloau, you have Samson Ebukam, depending on how good he's going to be or how, just how he's going to be in general, coming back from an Achilles tear on the wrong side of 30. We'll see. But Lou Anarumo is going to take advantage of this athleticism that he has in the edge room. There is an ungodly amount of athleticism that has not been utilized, has not been, used to the max potential. Gus Bradley's not creative. He's very surface level kind of stuff, but that's going to change. And I think Kwity Paye is going to take the next step in his rushing the passer game, in his pass rush, which has been lackluster. And then one last thing before we really get into these guys is they've had so much help in the interior of the defensive line. So it's kind of like Kwity Paye, yeah, you should be getting 8+ sacks at the very least. It's kind of like, yeah, these guys should be performing somewhat. but it has not been consistent, like I said. You know, when you have Buckner and Stewart, the likes of those guys in the interior, a lot of times one or two of those guys demand double teams. Stewart more so in the run game, and Buckner more so in the passing game. Could be both for Buckner, though. It's just a matter of fact that both of them are so dominant in their own ways, and it should help these guys in the edge open things up for them, you know, give them some one-on-ones, those kind of things. But they haven't taken advantage of those opportunities as much as they should have been. Like I said, there's 4 or 5 games a season where this edge room is dominant, and then there's some games where they're good for a half, good for the first half, good for the second half, good one quarter. But really, it's like 75% of the season, they're so inconsistent throughout games, and they really don't do anything. You know, it's not that they don't do anything. It's just that it's very lackluster 75% of the season. Very lackluster. We need consistency throughout the season in pass rushing wise. We need someone that we can trust, someone that is serviceable at least. Like, we need some kind of a dominance, not a pure dominance like a TJ Watt or a Micah Parsons, but maybe like a Samson Ebukam from 2023. We thought he was going to be the guy. Achilles tear, shattered that. Wasn't able to play in 2024, but let's get into each and one of these guys individually. Kwity Paye. Since he's been drafted, he's been a little bit disappointing in terms of rushing the passer. He did just have 2 straight seasons with 8+ sacks, which is nice. But it feels like he's inconsistent throughout the season, throughout the games in terms of rushing the passer as well. He's very good against the run game. That I have nothing bad to say. I have nothing to say about, you know, the way he plays versus the run. He is phenomenal. He does a great job. The passing game, he's just too inconsistent. But if you look at his numbers in 2024, he has 37 pressures, 8 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 batted pass. That's not bad. 2023, he had 8.5 sacks. That's not bad. But it's not what we're looking for. You get what I'm saying? The consistency throughout the season sucks because it feels like there are games where Kwity Paye gets 2+ sacks, or he has a couple games where he plays really well, but then, like I said, it's like 70% of the season, it's just not good enough. But, you know, when he's playing at his best, 8 sacks, that's pretty damn good. So I'm really hoping with Lunarumo that he's going to figure it out, that he's going to take the next step in rushing the passer. But it just goes to show the Colts feel the same way, that they could get something better because they're, you know, a couple of years ago they brought in a guy like Samson Ebukam. You know, they're drafting guys like Lati Latu and then JT Tumalau. So it shows that the Colts agree, that the Colts, you know, feel the same way, whether they're going to say it or not. They're going to show their players respect and hold the utmost respect, and have all that class for them. That's they're a classy organization, and they're not going to put them under the bus. They're just going to be honest, and that's what the Colts are. The way football clubs speak, the way sports clubs speaks is by actions, not words. That's it. So 26.5 sacks, 31 tackles for loss throughout his entire career, 4-year career. This is his 5th-year option. I think with the Colts drafting JT, it's kind of like getting ready to let Kwity Paye go. Because, like I said, good against the run, but you need something more. You need something a little more consistent throughout the season, and Kwity Paye has not been that. You know, unless he wants to stick around in a cheaper contract and be a good rotational piece, but odds are there is going to be a team out there that is going to pay Kwity Paye a lot of money. A lot more money than he should get paid. So the Colts aren't going to be willing to pay that. So I think after this season, Kwity Paye is going to be gone unless he steps up in an ungodly way. 15+ sacks and just has an incredible season. I'd say even 13+ sacks. I think Kwity Paye stays and shows his worth in rushing the passer. But you're not going to pay a guy a lot of money if he's inconsistent rushing the passer and just good against the run. That's the rotational piece, not a starter that you're going to pay $20+ million a year. And some edge rushers are getting paid ungodly amounts, way more than that. Laiatu coming into his sophomore year, we're hoping that he can make that next step. We're hoping that he can break out this year. He's on a lot of people's lists for breaking out. Now, Kwity Paye was on a lot of those lists a couple years ago as well. So we're just going to have to see what we get. You know, he showed a lot of really good flashes. He had a lot of pressures. 2024, he had 4 sacks, 38 pressures, 9 quarterback hits, and 5 tackles for losses, which isn't too bad. It's pretty solid. Sacks-wise, not too good. I would like to see him get home a little more. Pressures, I'd like to see it go up a little bit for being drafted in the first round, 15 overall. I want to see a little more production. But if he could be, just dominant and getting pressure and affecting that quarterback, even if it doesn't result in a sack, sometimes it's just as valuable. He's twitchy, just like Kwity is. Kwity is twitchy. Latu is twitchy. Latu can come off the edge and make plays, but could he do it enough? Could he do it consistently? That's what you're going to hear me say throughout this entire video with almost all of these guys. It's just a consistency issue. Go back and watch. If you watch the Colts the last couple of years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm just hoping that Latu can take that next step. If Kwity Paye can play like he did last year, at least decently, and then you have Latu on the other side really playing well, really getting after the passer, then, all right, you have yourself a good 1-2 punch, but you're still left wanting more. You know what I mean? You're still left wanting more. And Samson Ebukam, before he tore his Achilles, we'll move on to him, he was that guy that I'm talking about that I want. I want a guy that's going to get 10-plus sacks, 48, close to 50 pressures, 3 forced fumbles, 34 solo tackles. That's a great season. That's not mediocre. That's not good. It's not dominant, but it's a great season. That's exactly what I want, but him coming off the Achilles tear, the wrong side of 30, it's just not looking good for him. That's the issue with him. If he could come back and be 70 or 80%, we'll be looking good. We'll be fine. We'll have that third piece that will be decent. But, like I said, wrong side of 30 and Achilles tear. That's scary. But 2023, that sack number should probably be 13 or 14. Because that's how many times, that's how close he got to the quarterback every time. And that's kind of what I'm talking about Latu and what I kind of want from him. If you don't get sacks every play, that's okay. But if you could barrel down that quarterback and freaking pressure him all day long, give him one good hit early on and rattle him early on, then that could be the difference in you slowing him down versus him just cutting you up all game long. So if Latu can have a season like Ebukam did in 2023, that is an absolute win with Kwity Paye on the other side. That's good enough. It's not great, but it's good enough. No, it is great. I was just saying that was great. Sometimes I just say things as I'm going. But Samson Ebukam, if he could recapture some of that momentum that he had in 2023, that would be wonderful. It may take him half of his season, even if it's only the second half of the season. I want Samson Ebukam to be on that field if he's anything like he was in 2023. All right, then you have JT Tuimoloau. 2022, he was one of the best players in college football, straight up. Defensive end and all, he was an intense off that edge. You go back and watch a Penn State game, he single-handedly took over and practically beat Penn State in that game. He was so dominant, so good that year. And then the next 2 years that followed, he was still pretty good. He just couldn't really recapture the same level of success he had in 2022. So are we looking at another guy that's going to be inconsistent and show flashes? I hope not. He's got all the physical tools and what you want from him. But could he put it all together? It may take a year or two, but he has time. There are guys in front of him, but if he could come out and play good right away, awesome. Great. I think he'll be a fun rotational piece maybe the first year. But I think, Latu and Kwity Paye are going to get some time. And if Ebukam isn't 100%, then JT could get some legit time. And if he makes good use of that time, he may just bump Kwity Paye right out of that starter spot in the beginning of the season or midway through the season. That would be nice. You know, I'm not wishing nothing bad on Kwity Paye, but I'm just wishing for the best. And if JT brings that, you know, in the middle of the season, he's bringing his best, and Kwity Paye is not, let's go. Let's go JT. Another JT, you know. We have a good track record with those guys. Isaiah Landis, another one. He's been with the Colts since 23. Hasn't played much at all. He's been in the practice squad. He's been in training camp. Hasn't really made the difference. Hasn't really played. Can he break through? He has very little chance to make the roster. So, then you have Tyquan Lewis. He's been here. Tyquan Lewis has been here for a long time. You know, he's another one. He just couldn't get away from injuries. There's one year, I believe it was the Carson Wentz year. He just started to play absolutely wonderful. It was a small sample size, but he was playing great. He had a major injury like an ACL tear or an Achilles tear or whatever it was. It was a major injury, one of those injuries that just puts you out for the year. And it's just unfortunate that he couldn't find that. He can't stay on the field. Because I think if Tyquan Lewis has been able to stay on the field his career, he would have had a decent career here in Indianapolis. But could have, would have, should have, and didn't. You know, it is what it is. Sometimes the best ability is availability. But the 2 years where he played at least 16 games, he had 5+ sacks. So when he was healthy all season long, he couldn't make it work. So maybe not. Maybe he couldn't have put together. I mean, you really don't know. You know, you really never know. But just the injuries and all that stuff is just, it is what it is. He will probably make the roster because he's versatile. You can play in the interior, you can play in the outside, you can do a little bit of everything. He's that nice versatile piece. So I think he makes a roster over Isaiah Land and Darrell Chomney. That's how I'm going to say the name. There's an N at the beginning of it, but I think it's silent. So this guy, once again, he's been the Colts since 23. He played 5 years at Maryland, but he has yet to log a snap. He has yet to play on the team. He's yet to play any snaps, and you know he has remained on the practice squad. Will he even make that? Maybe he'll make the practice squad. He won't make the team. Probably not. Hopefully he's a show. Hopefully he's a show out. But like I said, this room towards the top, you have guys that you know could be okay. You have guys that you know what you're going to get for them, but it's like we want something more. We need something a little more. So there's the edge room for the Colts. Thank you guys for tuning in to the JDW Sports Network. This is the Horseshoe Hustle or Colts segment. Thank you guys for tuning in, and that'll be it for this edge room. I want to hear what you guys think about this edge room. Who do you think is going to take that next step? Who do you think is going to take the step up? Who is going to become that guy? We need someone to step up. So I'll catch you guys later. It's Jason.